Welcome back to Boom and Bust. My guest today is Rick Perkins. He is the Member of Parliament for South Shore St. Margaret's in Nova Scotia, also the shadow minister in the opposition Conservatives for Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. Rick, we're just talking about resiliency, and you made the point about the oil and gas. I can't. I always remember the the Chancellor of Germany coming over to Canada right at the start of the war in Ukraine and saying, "Look, we need to find more natural gas and more energy suppliers. We can't rely on the Russians. What have you got?" And Justin Trudeau at the time said, "Well, there's no business case for that." I'm sure you remember that comical scene on Newfoundland when,
It's incredible. I
yeah,
don't know if he knows what a business case is, but when there's a customer asking for your product, then there's a business case to sell them that product. For you
exactly.
to say that there's not a business case when there's clearly a demand from other countries who have come asking for it. And the reality is we also have a lot of untapped resources in oil and gas. In my province in Nova Scotia, and not many people know this, we have 67 trillion cubic feet of shale gas on land, not developed. New Brunswick has 80 trillion cubic feet. There is an already built LNG plant in St. John that was built for receiving LNG that could be reversed to export LNG to Europe. We can be a major exporter of liquefied natural gas in the East Coast as well as the West Coast. We just need governments that are committed and recognize that opportunity. And you know what? It's not just good for our economy, it's good for the planet. Because in a lot of cases, that uh, natural gas would displace coal burning energy production, particularly in Asia. If you replaced only 20% of Asia's coal burning with Canadian liquefied natural gas, that would be the equivalent of Canada having zero carbon emissions. So, a big part of the missed opportunity the last 10 years was building the energy infrastructure to the coast to get our oil and gas to Tidewater so that we could do that to not only help our economy, but help the planet.
No, excellent points, and indeed, I think those points have to be continually raised. Otherwise, people forget about how we are well positioned. I want to talk a little bit more about Canadian competitiveness, Rick. I know you've done a lot of work on this as well, and it has been said with increasing concern that in today's world we aren't competitive. Maybe just to give us some of your assessments of that situation.
Yeah, there have been a lot of studies, obviously, statistics. Canada lags out of all the industrialized countries in the OECD, of basically Western economies. We are at the bottom in what's called per capita productivity. And they project that we will be there for the next 20 years unless we do some dramatic changes to how we approach managing our economy. So, what does that mean for people? What it means is that the amount of money or income people have versus what we produce is basically flat for the last 10 years. Well, everybody knows the costs have been going up, right? Costs of housing, costs of food, housing's doubled, food has gone up just since COVID by almost 30% in cost, but incomes have stayed flat. And that's why people are struggling and complaining and looking for change. Just to the south of us, we've been talking about the United States. We have fallen dramatically. Canadians earn $20,000 yet less a year per person than in the United States, where everything costs a lot less.
Hmm.
So you have this sort of double whammy in terms of our productivity, and we're falling behind. And the US is complaining that they're falling behind on the world. We're dramatically behind everywhere. And what that means is that our dollar doesn't buy as much, that people are having trouble to even pay for rent or buy a house. And all the basic things in the sort of Canadian dream that we were always brought up with. If you applied yourself, went to school, worked hard, got a trade, got an education, found a good job, that you would be rewarded after your years of work with a prosperous retirement, a prosperous living. You'd own your own house. Your kids would be better off than you. All of that is gone. And that's that's demonstrated in these statistics that we hear about our lack of productivity. We don't need tinkering on the edges to fix that. We need some major surgery to how we approach the federal government's role. The federal government spends over $20 billion a year now on
Oh, this is a
various
good
sorts of
point. Rick, that's a
tax
great
incentives.
point. Yeah, that's a great point. We're just going to go to commercial again, but let's pick it up on that point. That's
Okay.
very important. We'll be back after these messages.